Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, scholars and dignitaries, welcome to another episode. Welcome to my world. Hello, friends. Well, I'm pleased to announce that after all these years, it seems like 1,000 years, the Pentagon has just released their highly anticipated report on UFOs. As everyone knows, UFOs have been seen all over the world. There are stories of encounters and close encounters, and there have been many stories about them. The military has filmed them. People have said that they've had direct contact with beings from other planets, and there are bizarre stories, like the testimonies that aliens abducted people to perform physicals, including strange probes, that aliens were behind the numerous mysterious crop circles, that aliens were mutating cows out west, that aliens have a base on the dark side of the moon, and that several races of aliens are already here on Earth. Public fascination with UFOs generally started back in 1947 when an amateur pilot flying his plane near Mount Rainier in Washington state reported sights of 9 saucer-like objects darting across the sky. His recollection of what he saw started a wave of attention from the media. And of course, the alleged crash of a UFO at Roswell in New Mexico in July of 1947 began a frenzy of interest in what they called flying saucers, when all of a sudden the Army reversed that opinion and said that the identified crash was not a flying saucer, as previously reported, but a simple weather balloon. In July of 1952, dozens of UFOs were seen by people in the skies all over Washington, D.C., and theories about who they were and what they wanted were none too scarce. Interestingly, I believe my father and I both witnessed a UFO blazing across the sky on December 9th, 1965, and the reason I remember it so well was because it seemed to be in trouble. It was wavering and unsteady across the sky, and it seemed to be on fire, and it was followed by another UFO observing it. It actually went across the northeast United States and crash-landed in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, and it is known today as the Kecksburg UFO incident. Of course, the military partitioned off the crash site from the public and the media right away and cleaned the crash site spotlessly, so there never was any evidence left to substantiate the crash. Dr. Frank Stranges wrote his book, Stranger at the Pentagon, where he told about aliens from the planet Venus that landed in Washington on March 16, 1957, and asked to speak with, and were allowed to see and speak to, President Dwight Eisenhower and Vice President Richard Nixon. By the way, isn't it interesting that NASA recently announced that they were going to send an exploratory craft to Venus? Well, I'm sure that's just a coincidence. In the 1980s, an engineer by the name of Bob Lazar came out and said that he was employed by the government at a secret military base called S4, which was several miles south of Area 51. He was hired to reverse engineer the antimatter propulsion reactor of a captured UFO. Unfortunately, he retained no evidence or proof of his discoveries, and all information related to his background and involvement is missing. To take it a step further, in May of 2001, at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., the Disclosure Project, with the support of Dr. Stephen Greer, brought together 20 expert witnesses from a pool of several hundred witnesses, pilots, engineers, scientists, and former military personnel who confirmed the presence of UFOs and ETs. One of those witnesses, Sergeant Clifford Stone, verified that he himself was a part of a discrete Black Ops UFO recovery unit and had recovered numerous crashed UFOs, and he had access to top secret information and events, including conversations with live aliens being housed on military bases. Now, several people have leaked information that says that several races of aliens are already here on Earth, including a group resembling Nordics who are tall, who have blonde hair and blue eyes, and resemble humans so closely that they walk among us and can't be detected as extraterrestrial beings. These 4 primary species are known as the Orions, the Pleiadians, Greys, and Reptilians, and at least one, if not more, of these races is hostile to us and is vying for control of the Earth. And Phil Schneider, an engineer working on underground bases for the U.S. military, told of breaking into an unfriendly alien cavern and entering into a firefight with himself and U.S. Marines against the aliens, wherein he was shot and injured, and a number of Marines were killed. And there is a story with some legitimacy about a firefight with U.S. Delta forces and aliens in an underground bunker in Dulce, New Mexico, when the U.S. forces went in to free captive American citizens. And it was an extensive and deadly battle for both sides. The Americans knew of 7 levels to the underground bunker system, but supposed there could be as many more as 15, as well as a connection of tunnels to other alien bases across the entire world. So, here's where it gets interesting. At least one of these races is aggressive and not friendly to the human race, and there may be others as well. Sources have stated that there have been more than one battle with the military and these visitors from other worlds. Sergeant Stone himself said that he is aware of some 57 different alien races living here on Earth. And then there are multiple sightings of underwater submerged UFOs known as USOs. In fact, on more than one occasion, Navy ships were almost hit by these USOs, shooting out of the water into the sky at extreme speeds of acceleration. And there are numerous organizations dedicated to finding out the truth about UFOs. Especially important is MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, which is one of the oldest and largest civilian UFO research organizations. And believe me, their data and their evidence is quite convincing. So, big government continues to maintain that there is no such thing as intelligent alien life forms, while evidence to the contrary abounds. There were 2,625 reported UFO sightings in 2000, 3,069 reported sightings in 2010, and 4,881 in 2017, and all have been listed with the National UFO Reporting Center. Yet, government denies having any real proof. So now to this report, and there is a link to the report in the video description below. An eagerly awaited report on the Pentagon's research into the unidentified flying objects, also known as Unidentified Aerial Phenomena, or UAPs, was released in June of 2021. After all the fanfare and all the promises of releasing information that was previously classified, the report turned out to be very uninformative and contained some very limited information from the Pentagon's new UFO task force, which is supposed to examine UFOs through a national security lens. The Department of Defense said that they'd take any incursion by unauthorized aircraft into our airspace very seriously. But in short, the report was a dud. After many promises and who knows how many millions spent to study the latest UFO sightings, the report absolutely does not contain any proof of aliens. Here's what we know so far. The United States Senate Intelligence Committee asked the Pentagon to provide both classified and unclassified versions of a report on UFOs by June 25th, 2021. Now, we know that government has dabbled in UFO research for decades, and they have certainly made available some heavily redacted documents for public review over the years. Originally, the Air Force had released Project Blue Book, which ended in 1969, and after investigating more than 12,500 UFO sightings, either came up with findings that these sightings were easily explainable, such as weather balloons or swamp gas, or were simply inconclusive. And the Central Intelligence Agency kept quite a lot of historical UFO records and made them public, showing even more government attempts to explain unidentified aerial phenomena since the years following Project Blue Book. And again, none of these historical documents or records linked any sightings or findings to extraterrestrial activity. Of course, the government and all governments are seriously concerned about UFOs. If true, this is a superior power with a superior technology, to say the least, and every country is interested in both national security as well as in military might. So yes, governments want the truth, and the truth is out there. So the U.S. government established an Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, the AATIP, which was a classified Pentagon project to investigate unidentified phenomena. And they gathered studies and studies on a wide range of ideas, including nuclear propulsion, invisibility cloaking, warp drives, metallic glasses, programmable matter, and so on. No possible explanation was immediately discarded. And then the AATIP was defunded, but now has a successor, the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, situated within the Office of Naval Intelligence. It was always unlikely that the Pentagon report would tell us what the objects are, and to be honest, I'm not sure our intelligence officers know much about them. I do think much of it remains a mystery, but I do think they know far more than they are telling. Out of 144 sightings submitted, the Pentagon report was only able to confidently confirm the identity of one single UFO. And they stated that, quote, in that case, we identified the object as a large deflating balloon. The other 143 sightings remain unexplained, even sightings that were filmed or described in explicit detail. Of course, they did detail some of the other sightings. 18 incidents seemed to feature unusual flight patterns, and 11 reports from pilots documented, quote, near misses with a UFO. And the report stated that some UFOs appeared to remain stationary, some moved against the wind, maneuvered abruptly, or moved at considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion. In a small number of cases, military aircraft systems processed radio frequency energy associated with the UFO sightings. And there are videos that have been declassified and made available under the Freedom of Information Act showing separate incidents of objects whizzing through the air, rotating, making impossible turns, and speeding. Sometimes you can see a whole fleet of them. And the report never looked at underwater flying objects, UFOs that seem to have a base on the bottom of the ocean and come shooting out of the water, at times barely missing sinking boats or even ships. So, here's where they are at. The report listed 5 possibilities for what the UFOs could be. First, something extremely benign like drones, flocks of birds, or other airborne clutter like plastic bags. Second, top secret U.S. technology that the Navy and other agencies don't know about. Third, foreign technology from U.S. adversaries like Russia or China. Fourth, some kind of natural phenomena, for instance, atmospheric conditions that get picked up on instruments or cause weird illusions. And fifth, other. And this is the catch-all term for, we have no idea. The intelligence community did rule out the possibility that the UFOs were secret U.S. technology in action. At least they were, quote, unable to confirm that any reported UFOs were from any top secret government programs. And one researcher said that, quote, we're dealing with a technology that could be 50 to 1,000 years ahead of us. And at the end of the day, we don't know what we're dealing with. All options have to be on the table. And as many critics have said, because the report failed to provide quality information, you really can't draw any firm conclusions either about the nature or the intent of UFOs. So simply, while the general public had high hopes for this new UFO report, it fell flat and failed to positively demonstrate either the conclusive existence of flying saucers or, even more importantly, of extraterrestrial beings themselves. So, E.T., I'm very sorry. We know you exist. Everyone knows you exist, except the government. Or do they? The truth is out there. Hey, be safe, be well, and may God bless.